Good afternoon. Welcome to another session of My First Job, the podcast. And we've reversed roles again in this format where we're talking to three young people about their careers ahead of them and not as we've been doing in the past to experienced people to look back on their careers. So let me bring them on board one by one. But first, a short introduction. My name is Venugopal, and I head a company called Ideascape. The first person I'll bring on board is Vandana Subramanian, who has a master's in clinical psychology, and she launched her own counseling center called Psychoflix during the pandemic. She helps clients navigate through trauma. But interestingly enough, she also counsels people who trade in the equities and the share market, and that I'm told is trading psychology, which is news to me. Okay. uh, and in one of the her social media posts, she asked a wonderful question. She said, if you receive a friend request from a former client who terminated therapy sessions a few months ago, is it ethically appropriate to accept the friend request? Maybe I'll make that the first question when I welcome Vandana on board. Hi, Vandana.
Hi, Venugopal.
Good to have you on the show. And
Thank you.
have you resolved the conflict that you yourself put up on social media?
Yes, I think this is something that a lot of therapists do face because we do have a social media presence and our clients are also on social media. So it's always
Hmm.
a conflict whether to accept their friend request or not. So it is an ethical dilemma, and that was what the post was talking about. And
Right.
we did solve it.
Okay. Great. I'll get into more details while I bring the others on as well. And then we'll get into the conversation. Okay. Next, Archishman Durbha, who's a product designer and whose forte is UX and UI design. So he talks about user journeys, user stories, design systems. He works in the world of user experience and user design. And he's worked with multiple businesses in finance, energy, telecom, vehicle charging, and healthcare. But there's a wonderful project that he started almost 9 years ago called Tipsy, which is meant to be for people to read braille digitally. Let me welcome Archishman. I'll call him Archie because that seems to roll easily off the tongue, and then we'll take it from there. Hi, Archie.
Hello,
Good to have you on board.
thanks. Nice to see you
Okay,
all.
so the first question, uh, the project Tipsy, which was meant to TIPSEE. Unfortunately, it sounds like TIPSY. So that so what exactly was that about, and did it go anywhere?
Good question. We had so it was mainly a concept, and I tried to build a prototype for it. And I spoke to people who are visually impaired and some experts in the field. So they said yes, it might be viable, but we did not get it to the stage of a working prototype. But
Okay,
yes, it just
I
taught
thought
us a
it
lot
was
about
a
brain.
yeah, I thought it was a very interesting product
Thanks.
per se. Okay, and finally, Subhiksha Srinivasan, who's an entrepreneur. She's one of those people who found out early on that digital marketing was something she really enjoyed. And she's not stopped at being a digital marketer. She's actually started this company called a Friday Project. It's a venture that helps freelancers connect to opportunities and vice versa. And to prepare herself, she actually took up uh, specialized in international marketing because digital is truly borderless. Okay, so let's welcome her to the show. Hi, Subhiksha. Good to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so let me, sort of go over each one of you one by one so that I get, or I will open up, once we have the first set of questions answered, then I'll open up the floor, and any one of you can go in first. No issue. Okay. So, Vandana, were you always interested in psychology, or what was the what were the inflection points? What were the influences that helped you take it up?
So actually, I didn't know about this field for a very long time because in the school that I was in, most of my classmates and peers were inclined towards physics. So during my college years, that is when I was studying for BCom, that's when I realized that I had an inclination towards psychology because most of my friends or even relatives, they used to come and they used to talk about their concerns, and I used to be a very good listener. I used to not give any advices, and many of them used to say that I think you should become a counselor, and that's when I explored this particular field, and it really intrigued me. Post which I did my bachelor's, then my master's, and then started my practice. So that's how my journey has been. So it was a sudden discovery, but a worthwhile discovery for me.
So you started off on your own right away. You've not worked anywhere else before this, before you started your own concern.
I did a lot of freelancing for
Okay.
companies like Ping, Optionables, Q Alpha. So I worked with them, but full time it was from Psychoflix itself.
Okay. Wonderful. So Archie, how you've done your BE in design, right? And so I think you had a fairly clear idea in your mind that this is what you wanted to do. How did you get into the world of UX and UI?
Okay, yeah, I similarly, just like Vandana, I had no idea about what design was until I was in
Okay.
my 12th grade, right before the entrance exam started. And I thought that, like everyone else, I would be forced into engineering. But at the last moment, I found out about the whole field and then went into this whole thing and then got my degree in Bachelor of Design at PES here. So, yes, it was a very
Okay.
final last minute change.
But obviously a change which you enjoyed, because I think at the end of 4 years you knew that that is really what you wanted to do.
Yes.
So do you think that there's a certain element of risk taking, or do you think that most of us stumble into careers?
Yes, I think it is risk taking because I was in the very first batch in this college. So they said you're going to be the guinea pigs and there's no one else, and stuff like that.
Yeah, not exactly the most encouraging words for a college to say, but that's besides the point. It's a okay. So Subhiksha, what about you? I think we briefly touched upon this, and you told me how you loved digital marketing just as soon as you came across it. What
Yeah.
part of digital marketing appealed to you?
So while I was doing my bachelor's in business, my idea and thought process was entrepreneurship, but not in marketing. I wanted to do something in hospitality, and I remember very vividly. It was just a basic digital marketing course that I had actually chosen as an elective. So it was not even a part of the needed courses to be taken to get my degree. So I'd actually chosen it because a lot of my seniors had told me that it's a very easy course to get a good grade in. So I just wanted a good GPA, so which is why I chose that course. And during our very first session, I remember the professor talking a lot about how digital marketing is all about change, and every single day there's something to learn, which really resonates with who I am as a person as well. So I am someone that loves to learn new things and likes to explore new trends. So it was definitely something that I was inclined towards. And so inclined that I changed my trajectory and did an MBA in international marketing instead of doing an MBA in business.
Okay. So the pressure digital marketing doesn't get to you,
I mean, I
or you
think
like it.
it does get to me, but I feel like the pressure almost makes you better. The competition with digital marketing is a lot. Like there are so many people competing, but I feel like if I am in a low pressure environment, maybe I wouldn't succeed as much.
Okay. Wise words. Okay. Um, so, Vandana, what was it that, how did you handle some of the early cases that came to you? or how are you managing? And is it that you tend to speak to people on a certain number of sessions, or how does the entire thing work? We'll get into the trading psychology bit a little later, but I thought
Sure.
we'll start off with the, yeah.
Okay, so the first question which you asked was the initial days. How did I manage? So I used to always get most of the cases as trauma or couples counseling. And it used to be a little difficult in the beginning days because a college degree does train you to some extent, but you have to do a lot of other groundwork and upskill yourself, do a lot of courses which is relevant to your field. So I came across a therapy called as acceptance and commitment therapy. It was not much taught in India. It's something that I learned from an Australian place. So that really helped me to streamline the way in which I conduct myself as a therapist and the way in which I can empathize or understand my clients and provide them with the resources that they're looking for. So it was a journey of discovery, seeing what works best. So it was a, like, trial and error, like how we have in every field. So it was like that in the initial days. And since I got most of the cases as trauma and couples, which is a little challenging and interconnected to so many different aspects of human mind and emotions. So it was very interesting, and I learned my way. I'm still learning, I'll say, to take on my clients. And the second thing that you asked was, how does it go? So we provide sessions both in person and online. So it's for a duration of an hour. And so it's basically further divided into what were the things that we discussed in the previous sessions, how are their progresses like, what are all the things that worked for them, what didn't work for them, how do we go about the things that didn't work for them, how can they experiment on things on their own even if a therapist is not there. So this is how we generally go about in a session.
Okay, great. So in terms of, okay, so I think commitment, we won't go there because some of these things I think are even career, because we will confine ourselves to the career because there are a lot of questions arising from the answer which you just gave, but I think that's not, that's for a different kind of exploration altogether. Okay, so Archie, what is the what are the things that I like about that you like about UX and UI? I will give you a counter saying that when you have a phone which is basically a 6 to 7 inch device and people are spending so much of time on it, and it's basically the same glass slab for the last 17 years, how do you manage to find something new to do?
It's a very interesting question. So yes, this is all. Yes, the frame is limited, but you can make million paintings in it. So it's either
Okay.
visual stuff or the way the experience works, how the flow works, and it's all. I mean, it's all creativity and it's like art. So yes, you can try out totally different things, but there's also a bit of psychology involved. For example, you have to keep the app or whatever you're working on. It has to be similar to what exists earlier. Like you can't make a drastic change that totally confuses users.
Yeah, and it's literally like every single stage. I was reading about this, the launch of Windows 95, and it said, or the earliest bit, and they said they had to teach people what folders were. Now, of course, you don't need it at all because it's gone into a different. But even today, getting people to transact first is getting them on board, then getting them to do something, then getting past that point when. So I think those are the areas where UX and UI is playing such a major role. But isn't it frustrating at times when you think something is so simple, people don't get it?
Yes, I think a good quote is, I think, from these American national parks. There was a person who was trying to design the trash can for them. And he said there's a
Okay.
considerable overlap between the smartest of bears and the dumbest of humans. So they couldn't make a trash can that doesn't work. I mean, it works for everyone.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, Suviksha, what about What part of digital advertising or digital marketing do you like the most?
Actually, it kind of surprised me, in fact. So, what I like most is connecting with new people, which I know seems like something that it wouldn't even be, in a book, or it won't be a part of the digital marketing subject. But whenever I get a new client brief and I'm able to talk to them and understand their passions and the reasoning behind their brand and what they want to achieve with digital marketing, is what inspires me the most. I like when there is a story to tell with digital marketing, and of course, it's about the numbers at the end of the day. But I always feel like when there is a goal behind the numbers, which is so beautifully put by most of my clients, and the passion that drives them is what I love the most about it.
Okay, wonderful. So, um, one of the things that young people experience these days, it could be because I'm one of these old fogies, and I thought that people stuck in the same career for 20 and 30 years. Do you think that young people tend to get bored with their careers fairly soon right now, which is what the adults accuse them of?
I think it's about finding your passion. I agree that in, like, now there are so many more choices and there's so much more acceptance than there was back in the day. Even in terms of marketing, I feel like it's such a crucial time where things are changing almost every single day. Like when I was in my BBA, Instagram was Instagram, but when I was doing my MBA, it was like, if you don't Instagram it, it didn't happen. So
Okay.
during this time, it is there is a lot more acceptance when it comes to different careers. So I feel like when there is acceptance, young people tend to feel that, okay, I can explore different options. But I don't think that's a negative. I feel like there's no age limit to passion, and you can always find things that you love to do even when you're 60 and above, or even 80 and above.
Okay. So, Archie, what about you? Do you think that you will continue to do this, let's say, 5 years down the line or even 2 years down the line?
It depends on whether AI will take over my job or not.
I I really don't think you need to worry about that, but that's a different thing. I think what AI can do wonderfully well is to remove every single thing that is possibly repetitive. But to actually think of a completely new way to approach people is. I also noticed there's this. I don't know if you've heard of this particular. I started seeing this a few. It's called an app called Artifact. Artifact. So basically, it's supposed to be an AI generated um, feed of news. It's like Instagram, but for news. What I found interesting is that they simply, their logo on the mobile phone was a series of lines just crossing each other. So it was not a form. So, and then it struck me that they were trying to ensure that on the screen, once I've managed to get past the this thing, I've got onto your screen. Now on the screen, I have to be noticeable. I can't think of, because it doesn't say news. It doesn't, from a graphic point of view, that's not what it's supposed to say. Okay. I don't think you face that problem, do you, Vandana? That bored because you're listening to life stories every day and people have new problems that they come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get bored because I'm not just a counselor. I have to,
Okay.
take care of so many other aspects. So that itself keeps it challenging. And it's not just that it's counseling that I do. There is a little bit of marketing, little bit of HR, a little bit of business development. So everything. So it's pretty diverse right now. Maybe down the lane, all those jobs will be done by the other team members. But still, I feel that my job is very interesting, and thankfully, AI cannot do my job. So, job security wise, I think it is there. And yeah, it's a very interesting place to be.
Okay. But I believe there is this chatbot which the Chinese, at least, are supposed to be It's people who they say cannot afford a psychologist who simply talk to a chatbot. They know it's a chatbot, but certain things have been programmed in. So I guess there'll always be a kind of thing where people are saying about 50-60% of some of the things that you say. Building a relationship with a chatbot is not possible. But it also seems to say that you can trust a chatbot faster because they say it is not a real person. So I know that what they're thinking of is not what I actually have in mind. Or, the relationship need not be as complex as the one that I have with a human being. Okay. Fine. So, Archie, let me come to you on what is the UX or UI project that you really liked? What have you worked on that you thought was pretty interesting?
Each project is interesting. So I think anything where we go into service design type of projects, which is you look at the whole service as a whole and then you draw service blueprints, because this involves a lot of user research and things like that. I think such projects are interesting.
So,
And
without
this,
disclosing what the client is for, can you take us through a few, let's say, conversations that you have or things that you talk about? Because the thing is, when you say service design, I'm assuming that the service is the interaction, or is it something else?
yes, it's totally, it depends on the project again. So the service could be, I mean, for example, it could be a store, and then you're thinking about, okay, when you enter this store, what is the customer experience that happens there? And who is there a person at the door who greets you or not? And it could be things like this. So it could be a physical store, or it could just be a website that you go to, Amazon, for example, if you're shopping.
Right.
So yes, it could be a variety of things, and all these are called services.
Okay. But aren't a lot of e-commerce sites, to a large extent, to the lay customer, at least as far as I'm concerned, if I was to go into Amazon or if I was to go to Flipkart or I go into Mintra, there is the same basic thing of I search for a certain product, I get a photograph of the product, then if I click on it, I get 3 or 4 versions of what that product looks like, and then it's down to, let's say, putting it into a cart or deciding to go into something else. Where exactly does the complexity come in, or what are the things that you wrestle with?
Okay, so I mean, everything can be complex. So now, in if it is a shopping journey or something like that, a lot of it is to do with, in the beginning, it is marketing. So you're trying to put one product over the other, or you're trying to show that, I mean, this is 50% off. You're sponsoring that. So it starts off there, and then when you look at the reviews, I mean, there is a lot happening there. So it's very complicated. There are many products out there. And yeah, even when you add it to your cart, you should make sure that the loading times are fine and you don't the user is able to easily make a payment. And yes, so it goes, it's yes, each and every step, I mean, if you get into minute details, there's a lot going on there. And there's even
When
something
did
called,
we become, sorry, when did we become so impatient? 2 seconds and we leave. What happens? Why do you think people are getting so impatient now? Because it's like if I try something and it doesn't work instantly, is our patience diminishing, or is it that technology has got to be so good that we're constantly trying to improve on something? And I don't think beyond 1 second you can really do anything much faster.
so yes, it is that people's attention spans are really coming down because of how we use social media so much, and with reels and TikToks and stuff like that. So yes, attention spans are like actually getting lower over time.
Okay. So, what is your prediction, assuming that AI doesn't take your job over? What are the things that you feel will continue to be in the realm of human control?
Uh, we are not, I mean, I'm not sure yet, but I mean, a lot of it's just like they talk about all AI jobs. I mean, AI in general, maybe it will take over a lot of the, uh, it'll take over a lot of work, but a lot of it will still be left to the humans. So I'm not yet sure. But also, I mean, it won't be limited to the screen anymore. In the future, AI, I mean, UX would be more to do with maybe VR and AR and many other things, holograms maybe. So yes, I think there's a lot of scope
Right.
for humans to, I mean, continue to be in this field.
Okay. I'm glad to Yeah, because like you said, technology never stands still. So obviously you're going to have AR and VR, and when Apple just launched its Vision Pro, I knew that it'll take at least 3 to 5 years, I think, for that technology to be more affordable. It's not that it may not be, but at $3,000, it's not exactly within the reach of, uh, you know, uh, a certain set of people only can get to something like that. Now, okay, Suviksha, how do you, um, let's say a campaign, how do you go about setting objectives for what it's got to do? Because sales can't be the only thing, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you figure out what is it that a client requires and how do you advise them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't mean to sound so clinical, but then a client brief is definitely the very first step to kind of understanding what their goals are. I also feel like when a client comes to you, there has to be a certain amount of trust in your expertise as well. So when they walk in and they have all of these goals, I think the tricky part is to manage these goals and tell them that digital marketing is not magic, which is one of, I think, the biggest challenges that digital marketers face nowadays, where people feel like running ads is going to give them these amazing results as soon as we run them. So I think managing those expectations in the very first few meetings and coming up with a plan based on the goals that they have is something that we do in basic digital marketing. And of course, every brand needs awareness, every brand needs basic engagement, and all of these different venues is going to give you sales at the end of the day. So my plan would be almost like a 3 month structure where we give them a week on week breakdown about what campaigns we're going to run and what goals that these campaigns will likely achieve.
Okay. I see that things have not changed at all in 30 years because clients used to expect immediate sales as soon as the ad broke, whether it was in press or TV or now in digital marketing. So there are certain things which will never change, I think.
Yeah.
And okay, so Vandana, in your case, uh, do you find again that couples are giving themselves a chance, or do they get to? You mentioned that your. So is it that women are pretty clear now about what they want, which has led to some of the conflicts in marriages, or is it that society as a whole has changed?
I think like how every generation learns and unlearns things. So even in a marriage or in a relationship, it's not just the woman. I think men and women both are learning and growing together. So society has always played a role. Now that we have more options, more exposure to things, I think that is one reason why we do have conflicts, and all of us have certain expectations. Most of the women these days are also educated, they are also in a good paying job, so they also don't want to hurry into things, they want to take their own time, decide what kind of partner they want, will they be able to support them in both the home related activities and work related activities, and same with a man as well. So he would also want a partner who is able to build the corpus that they want to build together, or help them out in whatever industry based activities or work related activities. So both places there's so much of change, and conflicts is something that can arise from a small thing or something that you have carried over because of what you have observed in your childhood days or with the people that you associate more with. So there are so many different factors that play a role in a conflict between a couple. So it's a process of learning and
Very true.
unlearning.
So let's say in a couple of sessions, 2 or 3 sessions, are you able to figure out if this couple is going to make the attempt to get back together, or do you think that their relationship is headed for rough waters?
So I think when they come to a couples counseling session, it's already in rough waters. So now
They're
the
already in
real
rough water. Okay.
Yeah. So now the real task over here is to see how much of effort they're willing to put to save the relationship, or would they want to explore other things and put an end to it. So it's more of, how much each is putting and what is their end goal from that relationship. So now everything has become goal oriented, or rather, what can we get from this particular thing if we invest a few more years into it. So it's like a job interview question, right? So where do you see yourself in 5 years? So something similar do happen in a couple's counseling as well.
Okay. Quite a sea change out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Aji, what is Infosys Wong Doody? Is it? What is the second part of? Does it have a? Is that an Australian company or is it an collaboration joint venture? What exactly is the company's name?
Oh yes, so Wongdoody is an agency that was made in USA by two people whose surnames were Wong and Doody, and then
Okay.
Infosys acquired this, and what used to be called Infosys XD, that is Experience.
Okay.
They took over. I mean, they used the name Wongdoody for all their global studios, so it's sort
Okay.
of like a
Okay.
branding thing. Yeah.
Okay. So that's how it came about.
Yeah.
Now, do you think there are certain things which will go back? I think you mentioned this briefly, that how things, for example, the Sarigama Carvan was one of those products which went back in time by saying that we will have physical knobs rather than screen swipes. So it's almost as if they understood that people in their 40s required something which was physical, and they didn't want, so they went back to the drawing board and came up with a product which was, I mean, in today's world it almost looks as if it's dated because it's like a hard disk with a couple of displays and it looks like a transistor radio, but it was a huge success. Do you think there are any other products like that which are likely to go back to where they were before?
I don't know. I think time will tell. One thing that I'm personally getting into is I'm trying to get back into film photography. So,
Okay.
because I mean, now in this age of AI generated art and all that, that is, I mean,
Okay.
going back to analog is interesting and fun now. But again, we don't know. Time will tell.
Okay. You mentioned that Vince Gilligan is one of your favorites. So Better Call Saul is one of your. Okay, yeah, I think that's one of the things which in uh, I think from scarcity to the kind of abundance that we couldn't have thought of. That is in the if you got television, it was for 3 hours a day. You got a film program once a week. Today, it's practically everything is available, and yet young people are bored. Why do you think that's happening? Anyone can answer. Or do I need to? Okay, Suviksha, why don't you go? Do you think people are bored, or do you think that there is just too much to consume, so there's no time for reflection?
Yeah, I think that nobody, I think including me, wants to sit and really think. So it's how do I distract myself from not having any thoughts? And there are so many different ways to do that right now. So it's almost like when you have too many options and everything is at your fingertips, it doesn't make it challenging for you to do anything. So I think maybe that's where the boredom comes from, because I remember, I feel like I sound so old saying this, but I remember when the cartoons used to come on when I was small, and it used to be the most exciting thing. But your favorite shows, like no matter how much you love it, I don't think that same excitement remains in us because of streaming, because it's so easily available. And I think that's where the boredom stems from not having a challenge.
Okay, Vandana, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more with Subhiksha on this, since we have so many options available, and everything is so easy. So you just have to do few clicks and you have it. So that's why I think we're feeling bored, and also most of the experiences which used to take time is now easily available. Like when I was a kid, going to another country seemed like a challenge. But now it's so simple. All you have to do is get your visa, book the tickets, and you're done. And the entire planning of it, how it's going to look, everything you can do it by sitting in your house, and you can pre-plan everything. So back then you had to depend on agents and so many different people that you feel okay, it's not really worth it. So now everything is there. So that makes it simpler, and we do get bored and things are simple.
Okay. So, Archie, what do you think? Do you get bored or you don't allow yourself to get bored?
Oh yes, I think we yes I get bored. So I mean because there is
That's good,
always a
actually.
better show to watch. Yes.
No, because what you realize is that the time available for reflection is essentially boredom, because it can't be. So, if you don't allow that to happen, it's consumption all the time. But then it's hard in today's world to try and say, okay, because one of the things that you see there is that uh, the window seat is not a particularly preferred option even while driving the car. Earlier, it used to be that the window seats were fought for by the previous generation. But today, that's not even, it doesn't even figure in the scheme of things. Because I think there's something much more exciting on your phone available all the time. Or, maybe there are other things to distract people. Okay. How do you see, um, what is your definition of long term, Vandana?
Well, it depends. Like I would quote this in terms of finance. So anything more than a year is long term. But if you ask career specific, then it would be 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. That would be long term for me.
Okay. And where do you see yourself putting in the effort? What is it that you want to do as you go ahead? What are the things that you believe you should be looking at for the future?
So a lot of things. So one is to make therapy affordable, and whatever myths that we have around therapy, to reduce it through spreading awareness, putting out content, reaching out to people. So that itself is going to take a couple of years. And after that, since we are all going to be tech driven, so having some sort of balance, therapy and tech, how can it work together and make the experience for the client a better experience? And also find different ways in which we can challenge and stimulate our brain, because many a times, like how we were discussing even in this session itself, we feel bored or we don't feel that challenged. So how we can feel bored and how we can feel challenged at the same time, and having that proper balance between our work, our personal lives, with so many distractions that we have around us. So these are certain things that I would want to work towards, uh, both career-wise and personally,
Yes.
and
Okay.
make Psychoflakes a brand that is known to people, not just in Bangalore but to other places as well.
Okay. Wonderful. So Viksha, what are the things that you think will keep you interested in your career development in future?
I think again, it's human connection, right? The whole reason that I started the Friday project was because I wanted to kind of create a safe space for freelancers and make them feel respected in the industry. So that's something that motivates me a lot, whether it be from who I'm working with alongside to create something, or whether it be on the client side to help them achieve their goals. So that's what keeps me going. So understanding different people's stories and where they're coming from and what their goals are definitely drives me and my goals.
So how do you go about, let's say, connecting freelancers to, let's say you get a brief from a client, then you figure out from your panel of people whom you're going to assign it to or talk to?
Yeah, so different freelancers have different expertise. Depending
Okay.
on what the brief is, and depending on, so I also believe, like I've worked in a few agencies as well in the past. And I believe that the output of work is so much better when I liked the client. I've been partial to the food and beverage industry because I'm a foodie. So whenever I used to get a client in the food industry, I'd be more excited. And I think that's very important. So I have the opportunity to connect freelancers with something that they enjoy doing too, which I always believe motivates them and gives a better output for the client. So it's a win-win situation, and that's how I go about it. I take what the client says in my mind and whoever I feel like would be best, and I take their opinion into consideration and connect them.
Okay, great. So, Archie, how do you handle a creative block? Let's say you're given a certain project and you find that, every single thing that you've thrown at the client, he says or she says that, can we do something more? How do you find more?
So more is usually, I think, when you're working in a team, you ask. I mean, when you've exhausted everything that you have come up with, you try to look to your seniors and ask them if they can contribute anything. You look to the internet for inspiration. But in the end, yeah, I mean, difficult clients are difficult, but yes.
Yeah, I guess there are certain things which are overlaps, and there's no way that you can get around some of these things. But okay, now having worked, I think all of you have put in what, 2 3 years at least
Yep.
of work now. Yeah. So now that you're no longer the so-called career newbies, what are the things that strike you? Vandana, when do you go? Start.
Strike in the sense like,
What do you is the career, is the student you were, or when you said I didn't know versus what you're doing right now? Does it make sense, or you say that I don't know if a job is really something that I'm, you know what are your views on this? Because there's a coming of age kind of thing. Like, you get into a job, you spend half an hour, 45 minutes, and suddenly, oh, it's not half an hour, 40, a couple of years, and you're saying, do I really want to do this 5 years from now? Or is this really what I set out to do? How are you answering those questions?
yeah, pretty much, yes. So being an entrepreneur or being a therapist was very accidental for me, but then it is something that I really love to do. So this is, I think, I'm the kind of a person who would say that I would love to work on a Sunday as well and not feel that burnt out or anything,
Lost
because I
purpose.
love what I do. So it really motivates me, and every day I wake up, there's some new challenge out there, or there's some learning that I need to do, or connecting with people. So it's a very nice place to be in, and I really love what I do. So even after 5 years, I might be doing something similar, but again, it would be very different, and with more experience, with more people around, or more people that I can connect with and reach out. So I like what I do.
Okay, wonderful. So, actually, what about you? You have a couple of your friends saying hi. I'll just put them on to the. Are you can see the comment. Yes, and another friend of yours who said woohoo. So obviously he's probably listening to it. So so what is your take on your own career and what has happened so far? Are you happy with the way your career has gone so far?
Oh, yes. So I think, again, like I had said earlier, I didn't know what design was when I got into it. And what really helped me get into it was a family friend. She told me, if you know that you want to be anything in the creative field, it's fine. You can do your design course. So that's how I joined it, and it's continuing that way. So as long as I'm not into an engineering sort of job and I'm in this creative space, I think it's fine, and I'll continue in design. So it's very broad. So I don't think I'll get bored, and I'll continue to be here.
Okay, great. So Viksha, I think you mentioned apart from food is one of your other interests apart from digital marketing. So
Yes.
do you see a convergence between the two, or do you see that they have to run along parallel tracks.
I mean, still, I feel more excited when I get clients who are in the food and beverage space.
Yeah.
It's just something that, people eat with their eyes. So it's almost like too easy to market it. There are immediately 1,000 ideas that you have when a client comes in with this versus someone maybe in the real estate industry. So I think that in terms of marrying it, it's just more fun to do. I would,
Okay.
however, love to create a niche for myself as being like really proficient in marketing for hospitality industry, because I've been blessed with having clients in Chennai in the hospitality industry, and also a lot of experience in that. It definitely helps that my dad has a hospitality background as well. So I guess that's how it works for me.
Okay. Is there a see, one of the things that I see with, let's say, social media and everything that we exposed to today is that the general level of, let's say, anything, whether it's food photography or it's UX design or it's counseling, there's you can go down several rabbit holes now. So you can go very deep into something if you're interested, which I think was not available to our generation, because the maximum we could do is go into a library or talk to people who had the experience and then get into it, which has its own huge advantages, which I think, in terms of what you're able to do. But I think what I briefly saw on Vandana's LinkedIn, she said that she does trading psychology. And when I asked her briefly, what does it mean? She said that she helps people who manage trades, which I thought was extremely interesting. So why don't you tell us how that business is developed?
Actually, this is an initiative by a friend of mine. He is an
Okay.
option trader. His name is Saket Ramakrishna. So, whenever he used to trade, he used to feel this emotional balancing as sometimes challenging. And a lot of people in the industry also do face it. So he suggested that, okay, why don't, since I have a commerce degree as well and I understand trading to some extent, he told, why don't we, integrate the psychological part of it and the trading part of it together and provide trading psychology. And just as when we were thinking of doing it, there was an article that came in the newspaper wherein a person who was doing trading went to Nimhans, and the psychologists or the psychiatrists in Nimhans were wondering how to go ahead with this. So we were very
Okay.
happy that, okay, we are all in the same place.
But
And
yeah.
then I did a lot of reading, good old field work, observing the traders, speaking to traders. So we started it as an initiative wherein we speak to traders, provide them with 2 counseling sessions to see how things are going. And then we realized that it is actually aiding them, it is making them trade better, because there are certain principles when it comes to trading. We need to be disciplined, we need to be consistent, we need to be able to understand what is our goals, because all of us who come to trading, the primary goal is to make some sort of returns for us, which is more than the other returns like in FD or in mutual funds. And there are so many other compliances as well that we need to cater to when we are trading. So for that we need a good mindset, or right mindset. So that's what we aim towards in these sessions that we have with them. And it's very nice to see a very different perspective of traders when they trade. So,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
yeah, I would never have thought that that is one of the, because risk is something that is inherent in people. They either are risk driven or they're not. So it's interesting to see that that is something that people are now turning to counseling and then say, okay, maybe I can manage it that way, which is a heartening sign, because I think that also goes in with your long term objective of saying this whole stigma around counseling and psychiatry and
Yeah.
all of this, it'll be treated just like any other condition, human condition that people have. Okay, so Archie, give me one instance of let's say a UX design that surprised you. as to how effective it was, where you didn't think by doing that it would turn out to be quite as good as what finally turned out?
Hmm. I I
Now,
mean,
I'll
yeah.
give you an example. I'll give you an example. It said there was this company who spoke about, they were doing a game and they modeled it on a game that they were inspired by. So they had the characters move to every single place. They literally copied what the other team had done. And it involved a lot of work. But at one point, what they did was they said, the character can just move from one part of the game to another by simply pushing it across. And they executed it, required practically no work. And then the next morning, when they came back, they said, "What is this magic move that you've enabled? That you were able to, just move the character across the board." And people said, "You made it insanely simple, but insanely fun for a certain part of the game." So, what I meant was, you do something, there is a set of results which you're expecting. And then there is something which surprises you. So, you're saying right now you can't recall anything that was hugely surprising.
Yes, I don't know if it's hugely surprising, but just like you said, in it's a very boring example in a finance setting. We took it was okay. I was a sole designer on this team, and they had a very specific, a very technical request, and I took an existing pattern that was there, and I didn't expect that they would like it so much. It was very, very boring, but I mean, according to me, it was very straightforward. But for them, it was mind blowing that wow, we have seen many software that do things like this, but we have never seen this design before. So
Okay.
it was in finance and a confidential project. So yeah.
Oh, so it was some kind of structure within that finance project that you figured out. Yeah.
Oh yes,
No,
screen
and some
design
of
itself.
these screen design itself. Okay. Great. So wonderful talking to the three of you who are exploring three completely different, uh, you know, uh, career paths, because, and none of you, thankfully, are following what it's not. Archie kept saying, I didn't want to get into engineering. So he is doing something which is different. So Viksha is doing digital marketing, which is the thing. And Vandana is exploring the human psyche, which will never go out of style. Levi's had this wonderful line which said, "Quality will never go out of style." So, in a way, that sort of married both the quality of the product and the fact that it was always current and cutting edge and all of these things. So, some of these lines also surprise you; they remain for a very long time. Uh, any closing thoughts, Vandana, on how people should go about choosing their careers? What would you tell friends who are confused, wondering what to do as to where they should start?
I think one thing that all of us can do is in the grassroots level. Parents can show that there are so many different career paths. There's not only doctor, engineering, or a set path. There are so many options that is available. So that can be parted through showing them the different books or showing them the different people, different personalities, or different industries. And also at times nowadays a lot of schools do this. You do have these career counseling tests. So a career counseling test basically gives you the career options based on your personality, on your emotional bandwidth, on your IQ, on your values. So you have certain options over there which is completely very different from the usual career options that is being presented to you by your peers or by people around you. So this way as well you can explore the different opportunities that is available to you. And one more major thing I would say, since I studied in Christ, so in your bachelor's there are so many options, so many specializations that it can really confuse you. And even now, like after 5 years of graduation, if I see the options that is available right now, there's so many more. And take time, go through everything, see what is something that works for you. And it's fine, like in your graduation if you choose something and in your masters you want to do something else, thanks to the NEP
No problem. Yeah.
policy we can do that. So
Right.
explore different things and see what works for you. Like how even Shubiksha was talking about the passion part of it that comes when we explore things. So explore and don't be afraid to fail or fall. It's part of life.
Great. So, Viksha, you told me that you don't have a problem. You didn't have a problem figuring out because digital marketing kind of came in, and the moment you did it, you realized that okay, this is what I. So, in a sense, you were, uh, I would say, lucky, but because
Yeah.
it's that it came across as something that you would do. So, people
Yeah.
who are not clear about what they want to do, where would you? What is it that you would suggest?
I definitely say try to learn more about yourself, like your own personality, play to your strengths. And if you can't find a path, then carve your own path. Because I think one of my biggest learnings from this session itself is that we're all doing such vastly different things. And if we didn't find that other people were doing it, it was not a disadvantage, it's an advantage. So I definitely say if you do what you love, it won't feel like work. Uh, so you can carve your own path, is what I would say.
Wonderful. Achi, what would you tell people who are wondering what they should do, saying that I have these interests, but I'm not sure?
For me, it was pretty simple. I mean, if you're creative, take up design. If you're not creative, take up engineering, and you can go there.
and, and what if you don't fall into either of those categories?
Uh, then, I mean, reflect really hard, and you'll find something like music or something that will fit you.
Or else feel bored for a little while, and the and the way ahead will probably strike. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you all for agreeing to be a part of this podcast. We've had great fun talking to. I never thought, for example, that speaking to young people would provide us with so many new perspectives because we assume that people with experience would have a lot to say. But we found that all of you are just as articulate, just as clear, and just as innovative about how you see the future. So I'm sure there's a lot for you in the future, and I wish you all the very best in whatever you do and however the career paths turn out, whether it's ups and downs, which will be part of the journey. I'm sure there's a lot around the corner which you can expect. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'll I'll just close out and then I will. That was an interesting session from people who are following three completely different career paths. And as we can see, there is simply no limit to the kind of things that are now possible. My friend Hari said that this was a wonderful session. Thank you very much, Hari, for letting us know. And next week is the Teachers' Day special. And we'll be talking to three different teachers who are looking at uh, primary school, middle school, and high school on how they shape careers and how they look at the future. Thank you, as always, for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.